Greetings. These are all of my sci-fi books. There are 18 of them. So, welcome to the very first episode. Well, no, that's not true. We already did a wrap-up of all the books. Welcome to the first review of Timeless or Time to Go, Sci-Fi Edition. I'm going to put these down. Okay. So these are the three books that form the first group that I have read for this series. If you haven't watched the very first video in which I went over all of the books and so on, you should watch that first. But essentially, I picked 18 of the supposedly best, most classic, most good sci-fi books. From various sources, online lists, I consulted Reddit slightly, and came up with 18 titles. I've broken them down so they can each be reviewed and ranked tournament style, and ordered them into 6 groups of 3 so that I can organize them all and decide which is the best. So, I also have a notebook in which I've been writing notes as I go. So, there were 6 groups of 3, as I said. We used a spinner to randomly select the title of the first book I was going to read, and thus the group that it's in. Greetings, humans. These are 7 of the 18 books in my Sci-Fi Classics series called, what did we end up calling it? Timeless or Time to Go. Here we have 2001: A Space Odyssey. We have The Day of the Triffids, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in a really cool hardcover edition. Fahrenheit 451, Foundation, Starship Troopers, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So, I will eventually acquire the remaining 11 books at some point, but I want to start reading them now. I've already divided them up into 6 groups of 3, so I can read them and rank them tournament style, but let's see which one I'm going to read first.
Foundation.
That is Foundation by Isaac Asimov. That's this one. Okay, probably not one of the ones I was least psyched to read out of these 7, but oh well, the wheel has chosen. So, we began actually with Group 2 rather than Group 1, because that just happens to be the group that Foundation by Isaac Asimov is located in. Now, in case you didn't already know, most of these books are second-hand because I'm cheap. No, because I like them that way. This book, however, is a new one. This book was originally written by Isaac Asimov in 1951, but this is a 2016 copy. Got it from Waterstones. So, Foundation. Well, it's actually been a while since I read this. I don't have the date when I read it in my notebook, but I've read all 3 of these books, and I've already started the next book from the next group, so it's been a little while. I'm glad that I actually made some notes. Yeah, this book, kind of mid. That's my review. No, it isn't, actually. Yeah, there was a lot of world building involved in this story. It's about a galaxy-wide empire where this random guy has used maths and psychology to predict its collapse. but he says everything's going to be okay if you just let me take 100,000 people to our own planet on the edge of the galaxy, and we will fix it. So yeah, pretty interesting idea to start off with. But he's essentially going to fix the galaxy by not by stopping it from ending, but by writing down everything everyone knows in the galaxy in a big encyclopedia, so that after the galaxy falls, the survivors can use it to rebuild much quicker, so there's less suffering and death. Since this is a slightly older book from the 1950s, the dialogue is a little bit formal, so definitely more formal than I was used to, but that, like I said, is probably just a product of the book's time. But interesting to start off with, and there is a really good plot development that happens within the first third of the book. But unfortunately, that is pretty much the high point of the entire book, in my opinion. There are quite a lot of time jumps, since this is about the time frame for when the galaxy is going to collapse is 500 years, I think. So lots of time jumping, multiple main characters being introduced with each time jump. So you don't really get much time to get to know people or what they're doing or what their motivations are. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that, but that is kind of the whole point of the book, is for it to jump time. So you have to kind of just get used to that or else. But it does make the book feel more like a collection of short stories rather than one whole novel. Having said that, though, this is part of a series. Don't know how many books are in the series, but I also don't know if I'm going to read the rest of the series, because even though this is it won a Hugo Award, it is considered to be a big saga of sci-fi, but it didn't really grip me very well. Yeah, a lot of political stuff, lore-related stuff. It didn't really grab me that much. The story definitely began to bog down around the 2/3 to 3/4 mark. There's also a lot of religion going on in this book, which is weird. They're kind of trying to turn science into a religion to influence people, and I couldn't really get on board with that. So yeah, without wanting to give too much away, I'm going to try not to give too many spoilers away in these books, but I gave it 3.5 stars, which is a bit generous in hindsight, really. I probably would have brought it down to 3 stars, if that. Would not read it again. But yeah, the actual sci-fi, the science involved, not much of it really. There's a bit of space travel, and there are other planets, but that's kind of it. Very much taking a political, social sciences kind of... It's definitely in the social sciences of sci-fi. Not too big of a fan. But what I'm realizing almost immediately is that sci-fi is such a broad genre. It essentially encompasses, like, any fiction that has science in the forefront of the plot could be considered sci-fi. But that could be broken down into loads of subgenres, where this one, yes, it is based in science, but it has much more focus on politics and society, and those things don't interest me very much. So I've never read anything like this at all. When the initial plot twist happened at the 1/3 mark, I really thought it was about to jump into the next gear, but it kind of did the opposite for me. So yeah, not getting off to a great start in this series, but I did finish it at least. So yeah, that is Foundation, 3.5 stars. Difficult to get on with for me personally. Now we're getting into a much more, what I would consider science fiction. What we have here is Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. Now this book was written, again in the 50s, 1959, but this is a 2024 copy, again from Waterstones. Off the topic of the book itself, not that big of a fan of the of this edition. Not really a lot going on with it. It just says Starship Troopers. The original cover art of the book was better than this, so I would like to have a prettier copy. But yeah, getting on with the actual book. This one I gave 4 stars. Definitely the best in the whole group. Yeah, the book after this. Ooh. But yeah, this one, best in the whole group. Very, very readable. Bit of a controversial book, though, it has to be said. This book has also been made into some movies, but the movies take a very different approach from the book. I may have said this in the first episode where I introduced this book, that this was a satire, and that the original is... Sorry, that this book is a satirization, and the movie is pro-fascist. I actually got that wrong. The book is pro-fascist. The very first movie is a satirization of the source material. It's a satirical take on the very much pro-military, pro-violence, etc., things that are discussed in this book. So a little bit problematic, but having said that, it was very readable. There was good action. Really enjoyed the science aspect of this. So much so that I actually read over 130 pages of this book on the very first day, so that should tell you a lot. Yeah, it's pretty action-packed. It's all about a space soldier as he goes through his training and then goes into war for the future of the Earth. The main premise of this book is the military is on a voluntary basis. So you volunteer to go into the military, but you don't have to. There's no drafting or anything. But the reason people want to volunteer is because you can only become a full citizen and earn the right to vote if you serve a term in military service. So yeah, that straight away tells you something about the author's opinions on politics in the military. But anyway, yeah, the book certainly appears to be both pro-corporal and capital punishment in certain scenes. Also has a lot to say about the supposed lack of discipline going on in 1950s American society, toward children especially, which is a bit weird because disciplining children in the 50s would have been a lot more... I mean, I'd hate to know what the author thinks about gentle parenting in the modern era, because if he thinks that smacking children is not harsh enough, which is the take that he offers in this book, then I would hate to know what he thinks of modern parenting skills. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, this book was written in reaction to the United States suspending nuclear tests. The war between the humans and the bugs, quaintly known as the Bug War, is supposed to represent the Cold War against the Soviet Union. The author both praises violence and military action, and for that reason it's been called fascist by a lot of people, and is quite controversial in that sense. But the film itself was a strongly satirical anti-fascist take on the source material. You might not have seen it, but it's the meme of "I'm doing my part, I'm doing my part, I'm doing my part, I didn't do fucking shit.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I didn't do fucking shit."
That is, the first part of that is taken directly from Starship Troopers, which is some of the film. It has scenes filmed as like a commercial for joining the military, and it's extremely over the top. in order to mock the fascist undertones of the book. The military scenes, the battles, and so on are compelling in their description. So the style of writing here from this author did not suffer the same overly formal style that held up the dialogue and the description of Foundation. And they're only 8 years apart, so just goes to show that maybe I prefer that author's style of writing. Personally, I disagree with just about all of the pro-military messages given in the book. However, it is extremely readable. The description of military terminology is limited. Why did I write that? The final action scene is pretty confusing, but yeah, it was a very enjoyable read, and it actually had a happy ending at the end, which I really wasn't expecting it to have. So yeah, despite its pretty strong political takes, the book itself is actually pretty good. I gave this one 4 stars. So yeah, that is Starship Trooper. Definitely the winner of this group, goes without saying. Let us move on to Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I still haven't looked up how to pronounce his first name. Never ever seen that name before. Aldous. Yeah, no idea. This is a used copy. Got this from a... did I get this one from eBay or from the second-hand bookstore? I can't remember. Anyway, this, again, a 50s book. This one was written in... Wait, no. That's my bad handwriting again. This book was written in 1932. Look at that. Yep. 1932. But a 2004 copy. So, this is by far the weirdest book I've ever read. If you've ever seen Equilibrium, a film with Christian Bale, I'm assuming this book would have been an inspiration for that. Pretty confident of it. This is a book in which society has been completely overhauled, and just about everything is controlled and mandated by the state, which is a one-world government. The book opens with a tour of a hatchery, which is a facility in which human beings are made by design, and their making is scheduled to balance out the population, and every single baby is a test tube baby, and it's implanted into a jar with pig bits in it to mimic a placenta. Not very nice. God, I've written a lot about this. The eggs that they're made from are taken from ovaries, which are surgically removed from people, who are then paid off for it. And yeah, one of the big things, one of the main sci-fi kind of aspect in this book, because the majority of this book is dystopia, which is a sort of offshoot of sci-fi. Now, science fiction and dystopian fiction are both speculative fiction, which is essentially books that are written about a what-if question, speculating on what would happen if blah, 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 blah. So there's less science involved in this book, a lot more political, similar to Foundation in that sense, where the science part is part of the book, but not the entire plot, so it kind of takes a back seat, and it wasn't what I was expecting when I was going to be reading sci-fi books. So, yeah, this is definitely a sort of subgenre or offshoot of what I thought sci-fi was going to be about. But that's okay. We learn as we go. So yeah, it opens in this hatchery, and the main sort of science fiction aspect, apart from growing babies in jars, is that the fertilized eggs can then be split up into any number of identical twins as required by the state, up to 96 individuals. And this is done to produce any necessary amount of working class people who are essentially made by design and conditioning to do certain things, and they're broken down into Greek letter classes. So you have alpha and beta, which are the highest class, and they are not they're not made from loads of identical twins. That's only reserved for the working ones, which is gamma, delta, and epsilon in descending order. The epsilons especially are created to have minimum intelligence, to the point where they're actually referred to as morons in the book. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, the babies are conditioned with Pavlov levels of classical conditioning to do all sorts of things, whether it's they're hypnotized in their sleep with little lessons being played from speakers about to buy things endlessly and to never repair their clothes, or to always listen to the state, and so on and so forth. The concept of viviparous breeding, or actually having a child naturally and raising it as your own rather than turning it over to the state, is viewed completely as disgusting in this society. And promiscuity without any sort of committed relationship is the new social norm, and the state encourages it in order to the state is just trying to get people to have fun and be happy that way. So committed relationships are a no-go, and so on and so forth. Yeah, a lot of messed up stuff. Yeah, I don't even know if I can say some of the things that are referred to in this book on YouTube. So yeah, read at your own risk. But basically, there's not that much of a plot going on in this book, to be honest. There's a main character who wants to be in a committed relationship, even though that's not normally done. So he tries to get closer to this woman he has a crush on. He ends up taking her to the Savage Reservations, which is certain areas of the world where this political overhaul that they've done isn't practical in certain parts of the world, so they just don't do it. They put electric fences around whoever lives in that area and just let them do whatever they want. And it just so happens that there's an area just like that full of Native Americans in New Mexico. So he takes her there to go and see how the other half lives. And one of the people there is the son of somebody from the Brave New World, I suppose. So he has kind of been raised half and half, really. So he understands the new world, but he's also been raised in this savage kind of society, and so on and so forth. So the main character brings him back home, and he's exposed to all this new stuff, and he doesn't like it. This guy is referred to as the Savage for the rest of the book, really. But I believe his name is actually John. And yeah, the story pretty much follows him from then on, and how he hates everything the New World is doing. The government of this New World also produces and gives out and encourages the use of a drug, which just makes you happy, essentially, and makes you daydream and hallucinate and be happy without any negative aspects afterwards, no hangover or anything. So yeah, and he pretty much hates everything that he sees. He starts protesting and so on until the police decide to send him to live on his own in a lighthouse. And yeah, he's pretty okay with that, except the world media knows that there's like this savage now living among them or whatever, so they all go to see him in his lighthouse. I gave it 2 stars, to be honest. Not the sci-fi I was really looking for, and just generally a pretty unsettling thing to read about, what if society was messed up in an attempt to make it perfect? Kind of a cautionary tale. But yeah, it is a very well-known piece of dystopian fiction, which I'm now realizing sort of sits in its own slightly separate genre from sci-fi. So yeah, that was those 3 books in Group 2. 3 down, 15 to go. So on average, this group received 3.16 stars. Coming in first place is Starship Troopers, followed by Foundation, and then Brave New World in third place. So, my next read, again we used a spinner to randomly choose, is War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Actually, I think that's the shortest book that I have in this series, but it was written in 1898, so again the style is it takes a bit of reading to get through it. I'm only halfway through, and it's less than 100 pages. Sorry, less than 200 pages. It is less than 200 pages, but I'm only about halfway through, and I take my books to work every day and read them on my breaks, and that book's been in my bag for 2 weeks now, and I'm only about halfway through. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Along with War of the Worlds, also in that group is The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. So that will be the next video. Ciao.